but it's hard. And it's lonely. It's very lonely. I just know that if that loneliness can exist, so can other things, and I will be okay.
I say, if I'm gonna stand there 18 hours in a dress of an iconic Disney princess, I deserve to be paid for every hour that it is streamed on.
I'm not some damsel in distress waiting for you to ride in on your high horse.
Hollywood loves a good fairy tale, but this one? Yeah, this turned into a full-blown nightmare. Rachel Zegler, once hailed as Disney's next big thing, just faced the ultimate betrayal. After months of controversy, backlash, and PR disasters, Disney officially unveiled plans for a shocking new Snow White remake. And it's a move that pretty much erases everything Rachel had been attached to. Sources say Rachel didn't just take the news badly, she completely lost it behind the scenes.
I never want it to come off as me being ungrateful for the opportunities I have. When I tell you that it's hard, I just mean to be inside my brain. And I'm there 24/7, I can't get out of it.
Imagine spending years promoting a modernized Snow White, only for Disney to pull the plug, throw out your version, and announce a total reboot that goes back to the original fairy tale roots. The message? Loud and clear. The audience didn't want a lecture, they wanted magic. And Disney is finally admitting it, without Rachel. Now, fans are wondering, where does Rachel Zegler go from here? And is this the final nail in the coffin for Disney's modern remakes? But before we get ahead of ourselves, how did Rachel Zegler go from being Hollywood's golden girl to the face of everything fans hate about modern remakes? Stick around, because this fairy tale is about to get real ugly. There was a time, not that long ago, when Rachel Zegler could do no wrong. After scoring the lead in West Side Story at just 17 years old, Hollywood practically crowned her the new face of the industry. Big studios were throwing scripts at her like she was the second coming of Audrey Hepburn. Then came Snow White. And somehow, in record time, Rachel managed to burn through more goodwill than most actors destroy in an entire career. The downfall wasn't even about the acting, it was about the attitude.
Rachel, this is your second film.
I know.
How do you describe that experience?
Oh, it's so weird and like not okay. No pun intended, lightning struck twice for me.
Interview after interview, Zegler seemed less interested in honoring the beloved Disney classic and more interested in bashing it. She called the prince a stalker, mocked the original Snow White for being too passive, and bragged about how her version would be a fierce leader who doesn't need a man.
I mean, you know, the original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her.
Yeah.
Weird.
She even said, with a straight face, that the movie wasn't really for kids anymore. It was for modern women who don't dream about true love. Spoiler alert, Disney fans weren't asking for a feminist manifesto. They just wanted a good story. Worse, when backlash hit, Rachel didn't retreat. She doubled down. At one point, she smirked that people would still come to see her anyway, because, quote, it's Disney. Spoiler alert number 2, they didn't. The vibe shifted fast. Fans who once rooted for her started calling her arrogant, entitled, and totally out of touch.
I'm not even gonna talk about this. People are like, oh wow, Snow White flopped. Who is surprised? You cast arguably the least genuine, most out of touch, and disliked person in her industry, and her industry is Hollywood.
Her social media became a battleground, filled with angry comments, memes, and videos roasting every new woke soundbite she gave. Instead of charming the public, Rachel looked increasingly bitter, defensive, and frankly, desperate.
I never want it to come off as me being ungrateful for the opportunities I have. I can also be having the greatest time and simultaneously wishing people would stop sending me death threats.
Even insiders started whispering that Disney executives were panicking. Early test screenings for Snow White were reportedly disastrous, not because of the effects or the costumes, but because audiences simply couldn't stand the lead character. And just when it seemed like things couldn't get any worse for Rachel Zegler, Disney dropped the bombshell. Instead of quietly moving ahead with the reimagined Snow White that Rachel had defended so aggressively during her press tour, Disney insiders confirmed the rumors. Massive reshoots, a total overhaul, a desperate attempt to erase the PR disaster.
So there's some politics going on here. You know what I'm saying? So now they're remaking the movie. They just got rid of the dwarfs.
According to verified industry reports, Disney was not happy with the initial direction of the film. Test screenings were disastrous. Audiences, even Disney's own hand-picked test groups, overwhelmingly rejected the new feminist warrior version of Snow White that Rachel had proudly pitched. Critics who were shown early cuts behind closed doors leaked harsh feedback. The movie lacked magic, it lacked heart, and worst of all, it lacked any real connection to the original beloved classic. Facing catastrophic backlash, Disney executives pulled the emergency brake. Entire scenes were ordered to be reshot from scratch.
Disney's Snow White remake that was supposed to be coming out in 2024 is now going to be coming out in 2025, and it seems like they've taken in some of the backlash and made some changes.
The focus shifted back to the timeless love story, the traditional fairy tale elements, and the original songs. Songs Rachel Zegler once mocked as weird and outdated. Veteran Disney consultants, some of whom had worked on legacy classics like Beauty and the Beast and The Little Mermaid, were brought in to supervise the rework. A completely new director was attached to reshoots, and behind the scenes, the message was crystal clear. Fix this. Save the brand.
A new trailer is out for Snow White, and if you thought that Disney was going to salvage this film after all the backlash that it received about the direction it was going in remaking the 1937 classic, you were wrong.
And Rachel Zegler? She was nowhere to be found. Insiders leaked that Rachel was frozen out of key creative decisions during the reshoot phase, where once she had been billed as the star and unofficial spokesperson for the project, now her media appearances were silently canceled. Her promotional responsibilities scaled back, and her involvement minimized to just what was necessary to complete filming. Even her once massive presence at Disney events began shrinking. No big panels, no solo interviews. It was like Disney was hoping that if they just stopped putting her front and center, people would eventually forget. And make no mistake, for Rachel, this was a public humiliation. Sources close to the production whispered that she was furious about being sidelined, blindsided by a studio that had once given her full creative endorsement, only to turn around and pretend she never existed when the public backlash got too loud. And fans? They noticed. Online, audiences flooded Disney's social media pages with memes and jokes about a Snow White reboot without Snow White, and called the move the Zegler erasure. Even mainstream outlets began asking blunt questions. How did Disney get it so wrong?
Excuse me, your curtain. Please allow me to help.
Help? From you?
I didn't mean to offend. I just thought you should know that
That I should know what? That some privileged white guy thinks his opinion matters? Get over your entitlement.
If Zegler thought that a little controversy was going to fade away, she was sorely mistaken. Let's be real, the Snow White disaster wasn't just a bad movie. It was a PR nightmare that left Rachel and the whole production team on the defensive. It's no longer just about one failed movie. It's about the public perception of her as a star. And perception? It's everything in Hollywood. When an up-and-comer like Rachel has to deal with waves of negativity, there's a price to be paid. The truth is, it's hard to recover from a scandal, but it's even harder when you've consistently been in the spotlight for all the wrong reasons. Fans aren't buying her image anymore. Whether she's posting an Instagram story of her glammed up self or tweeting about how much she's learning from the hate, it's not hitting the mark. Her authenticity is being questioned at every turn.
And I can only hope that despite my flaws, and despite my cracks and my breaks, and there are many of them, that at every premiere, and everything I do, people will wait in line to see.
Now, for Rachel, Hollywood's response is twofold. 1, can she recover from this? 2, will the industry be willing to give her a second chance? The first question is tricky, considering how the public has already written her off. Every time she tries to reinvent herself in the eyes of the audience, they point back to Snow White. For Hollywood, however, this situation could signal a deeper problem: the dangers of rushing talent into the limelight without the substance to back it up. Even if the new Snow White movie were to get a second chance, it may be too late for Zegler to recover that spark. You can't just slap a princess costume on someone and expect them to wear it forever. Disney learned that lesson the hard way. As for the second chance, Rachel's future hinges on one crucial thing. What does she do next? If she's able to channel the backlash into some real, gritty performances, something beyond her Disney princess persona, maybe she can prove herself. But with the industry's reputation for chewing up and spitting out stars, Zegler's path forward looks uncertain. Now let's talk about Disney. You'd think a company like Disney, with its massive marketing power and multi-billion-dollar franchises, would be able to weather this storm. But Snow White wasn't just a box office disaster. It's a full-scale branding crisis. Disney has seen what happens when you alienate audiences with preachy, self-righteous storytelling that clashes with the magic they've spent decades building. Snow White tried to force-feed a modern feminist agenda, but audiences didn't want that. Now, with Zegler at the center of the storm, it's fair to ask if Disney will double down on its decision to cast her in future projects or quietly distance themselves. The industry is ruthless when it comes to stars who stumble, and Zegler's fall from grace has been swift and brutal. The catch is, she's still a talented actress with a strong fan base, and Hollywood loves a good redemption story. If she's able to land a role that resonates with audiences, she could prove the naysayers wrong. But if Disney continues to promote her as their Snow White in the face of all this backlash, they risk sinking further into a PR nightmare. So, what does all this chaos really mean? What's next for Disney? Well, the upcoming Snow White reboot is their shot at redemption. They've got to get it right this time, but will they? And do you think Rachel Zegler can make a comeback after all the drama? Leave your thoughts in the comments and don't forget to share this with your friends. Stay tuned.